What is up? I'm literally just ran in the door from work, so bear with me. I'm trying to work anything else. What's up, Constantine? What's up, Twiz? What's up, Hime? I sent you the link, so you should get in your Instagram. Bear with me a moment. What's good? What's good? How's everybody doing tonight? What's up, Const? How you doing, Becky? It's good to see you in here. It's been a minute. Let's get these likes up, please, por favor. I just sent the link to Jaime, so she's getting set up, I believe. It's about a 10-15 minute drive to where I work, but it took a little longer than it usually does. I'm not. She could go on White Guy Wednesday. Const. Yeah. I'll talk to you later about that. What's up, Bills? What's going on tonight? I think she is ready.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
What's up?
Okay, cool. I can hear you now. Sorry, you were kind of like frozen for a little bit. Sorry.
No, you're good. I just thought I might have to switch to my phone. I just started using my tablet just to see if I get a better picture and things will flow a little bit smoother. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm doing pretty well. Yeah. It's like still 4 p.m. here, so the day's going pretty well.
So you are in Hawaii, which I'm sure everybody talks about how great it is. Just tell us how horrible Hawaii is for a moment or two. How nobody wants
I
to move
mean,
there. It's just a terrible place. You should never move there, never want to visit there ever again, forever.
yeah, never, never. No, just kidding. Yeah, I feel very like, blessed to live here. But yeah, I hope y'all get to like come here someday though. Like, there's you know there's I'm pretty sure there's people to catch here, but either way, like just like visit Hawaii at least once in your life. But it's kind of tricky with all of the mandates and stuff going around. But yeah,
With,
I can like let you know how to work around stuff. So yeah,
with all the mad what
mandates.
mandates. Okay, gotcha. So is
Yeah.
there tougher restrictions on Hawaii than other because of COVID or what?
I mean, yeah, we're a pretty like democratic state, unfortunately. So it's kind of like, they kind of still make us wear masks indoors and outdoors. They require like vaccines if you want to dine in and stuff. And if you want to come here without quarantining, I think you either need to have like a negative COVID test before coming here or like, a vaccination thing. But, I travel for like business trips and stuff to the mainland. So I
Uh,
don't like I'm a homebody too, so I just stay home and I don't mind like quarantining for 10 days. But I'm just gonna say they're really lenient. That's all I'm gonna say regarding the quarantine. Yeah.
so I guess you said the Democratic kind of makes sense because the whole homosexual thing and stuff like that. So it kind of makes sense that
Yeah.
they're a Democratic state. Um,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know it's crazy though. I guess because people from outside the United States try to fly there a lot. They try to strike down on people not being vaccinated or whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, there was like it was kind of it went kind of viral. There was like one time where a girl came here with like a fake vaccination card and they found out that it was fake because she spelled Moderna wrong. It's just so sad, but it's funny. I mean, well, yeah, so they do kind of like go hard on people who like try to come here. Obviously, like tourists do still come here, but I don't
Mhm.
mind tourists. Like, it's like, they everybody can kind of like live their own lives, and it's kind of like, it's a hit or miss for a lot of locals. Like some people don't mind them, and some people do mind them. But I'm just like, you know what? If you're gonna be here, like, I mean, as long as you're not, like I don't know, as long as I was gonna say as long as you're not disrespectful, but like yeah, as long as you're not disrespectful and kind of like, you know, um, yeah, I don't really know how to say it, but yeah.
As long as you stay in your lane, and as I always say, keep the main thing the main thing. Is that pretty much what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, as long as they don't, you know, try to try to what do as long as they don't well one thing, I'm not like a big like environmentalist, but as long as they kind of like,
Mhm.
keep everything clean and stuff, like don't be littering everywhere. Like I'm not like a big like climate change activist type of person, but like pretty common sense to not like litter and to take care of the environment, I guess. Yeah.
Common courtesy, pretty much.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I had a roommate, my very first roommate when I went out to college. He was actually from Hawaii. So are you on the Big Island or the Little Island?
Oh, I'm on Oahu. I'm where the capital is, Honolulu. Yeah.
Okay. So pretty
Yeah.
much everything there astronomical in prices. Like gas is super expensive. It's like almost
Absolutely.
$3. It's over $3 here. How much is it there?
Over here, it's like $4, like I think like 450 it's reaching. Yeah, it's pretty I mean, kind of like you can't really go that far on an island, but still it's still expensive, right? And the food, oh my
Man,
gosh, when you go to like the grocery store, like milk is like $7. Like it's expensive depending
for
on
a
where you
gallon
go.
of milk, it's $7.
Yeah, and
That's
depending, like, if you go near, like, where tourists go a lot, the price is hiked up even more because tourists. So I think, like, the most expensive I've seen milk cost here was, like, $11. It's so bad.
wow.
Yeah,
That's you could get a meal at Applebee's for less than that, a gallon of milk.
I know.
That's
Right? I know,
insane.
right? Yeah, it's
So
really tourism, it's like
yeah, I'm from Tampa, so I can kind of understand how people from all around the world go to visit and stuff like that. It could drive the cost of living pretty high. Have you always lived in Hawaii?
Nah, I moved here when I was 5. I was actually born on, like, the mainland, on, like, the West Coast, yeah, on the West Coast. I was born in, Washington originally. Yeah.
Okay, so did your family relocate there just job or what happened?
Yeah, so it was kind of like we, my parents kinda, like, separated, so that's kind of why, like, we moved to Hawaii because that's where, like, my mom and, our family is, so, yeah. I would say that's, like, the main reason, yeah.
Okay, I mean, to go to Hawaii, I guess it's got to be a plus. But I'm sure, like I said earlier, you get sick of everybody saying how great it is and wish they could live there and whatnot.
Yeah.
Is there any place that you'd rather be besides Hawaii, or any desires to go anywhere else?
Ooh, I think Hawaii is, like, really nice, I would say, if anything. I was, man, it's kinda hard to say because it's, like, I kinda take into consideration, like, the government as well, so it's, like, I would love to be in, like, on the West Coast, like, and on, like, a colder side, because like, I love the sun too, but I'm more of, like, a gloomy type rainy weather person. Because I guess I don't know if it's because I've got like the sun like my entire life, but I like rainy weather. I was born in Washington, so I would love to like go to like somewhere not in the heart of like Seattle, but maybe on like one of the more suburban areas of Seattle would be fun. I have family up there too, so that would be kind of fun. But I also I want to know like I want to live in like a red state. I think that'd be nice. You know? Yeah, where things
You
are
want to
like a bit
live,
cheaper.
yeah, you want to live where you can legally carry your gun and be able to actually
Yes.
live in freedom, pretty much, right? Not have to worry about
Yes.
masking. And there you go. I got you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm in
Yeah.
Georgia, which is a Democratic state, but I can understand.
Yeah, I feel
Yes.
bad because like all of the West Coast states are really nice and like really good, especially like Seattle and even like California. They've got a lot of different like terrains and weather conditions, but it's like I feel so bad because of like the government is so bad. So it's like I would do it if it wasn't for the government. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll get into it later as far as the government and decoying and stuff like that. And like you said, it's pretty crazy. There hasn't been a predator approaches or anybody for that matter trying to get predators in Hawaii. You do decoying. Is it just for CC unit or do you do it for other people?
I've done it for like some other groups as well. Like my very first catch was with Alex, which was really fun. Like that was or very like panic inducing but fun at the same time. Like yeah, so I've done a catch with Alex and then I've also done like a catch with I don't know if I'm allowed because it was in the yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the other group, but because I want to keep it like confidential and for their safety in mind.
As
But
long
yeah,
as
and then
it's not the as long as it's not the R word, I'm good. I don't care.
Yo, yeah, it's not the R word. Not the R word,
Okay.
not the T word. I don't really know much about the drama, but I hear there's a lot of that circulating, but not with one of them, not with one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. What's going on, Edward? We got Hime on here live. You constantly said you did a pretty good job on your phone call earlier. Is it a
Oh
predator that
yeah.
you're trying to go after, or
Yeah, so I was talking to one of CC Unit's creeps that he's trying to catch right now. Yeah. It was really fun. Really, I mean, really like it's so interesting to like it was during the live stream that he did earlier as well. But yeah, we kind of were able to get a little bit of information, so that was kind of cool.
so? Take us through your mindset while you're decoying. I know how long you've been doing this since you started with Alex. Is that right?
Yeah, I so in March of last year, I made like my own decoy account because I just wanted to because I was kind of like, oh, March of this year, my bad. But yeah, I was just like, okay, I'll make a random like decoy account and then I'll see if like any guys like message it. So I like used like a face app picture of myself and then I put 11-year-old in the bio and then I posted like some stuff so I can look real. And then yeah, some guys were like messaging me and stuff, but they were from like different countries. And then suddenly, like a few couple months passed, and then I started to get like US predators. So that's kind of
Mhm.
when I like started decoying. And then there was the way that I got a catch with Alex was when this guy from Georgia, he was messaging my 11-year-old decoy account, and then
Mhm.
he was like, "Oh, I'm going on a, I'm going to Texas," and then I was like, "Oh, what area?" And he was like, um, Houston, I think. Either yeah, Houston was it? Yeah, and then I was like, "Oh, I know," in my head I was like, "Oh, I know somebody from
Ding ding.
Houston." Yeah, yeah, and then I like messaged Alex, and then I was like, "Hey, like I got a creep. This creep is like messaging my decoy account. Do you want to catch him? He's gonna be in the area pretty soon." And he was like, and then Alex was like, "Oh snap! Like that same guy is also messaging, the 8-year-old decoy account." So I was like, "All right then, like, wow, okay, let's get him then." So then, yeah, that's kind of how I started decoying. Yeah, and like
So,
collaborating with others. Yeah.
so you would say chances are, if they're messaging one person, they're more than likely messaging other people, including real children.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, what made you decoy? Did you get into the community and just decide doing it, or what made you want to do it?
Yeah, so I like I I got introduced to like creep catching through like, back in I think 2018 or 2017, probably 2018. I came across like a Justin Payne video and then I was like, "Oh shoot, like this is actually like, people will actually go out and do that. Like they'll actually message, little kids and then, thankfully there's people out there that will catch them. Wow." And then so I watched Justin Payne first and then I watched Anxiety War and then Pop Squad. And then I finally ran into a Chris Hansen video and it was the one that he was doing recently, like it was the John Dupay catch, I remember. And then
Okay.
I remember he was using like the in real life, like the 19-year-old theater student. And I was like, dang, like I could literally do that. I'm very like small, I'm very like short too, and then I have a very like, you know, softer sounding voice. And then yeah, that's
Mhm.
why I was like, oh, where do I like sign up for that job? Like, can I just call up Hawaii Police Department and be like, hey guys, are you looking for a 13-year-old? Like, I can play a part. Like, you know what I mean? So I was like, so that's kind of how I got introduced to like decoying, and then that's what made me like get interested in it. Yeah.
So every time I watch To Catch a Predator, I see the decoys and they look nothing like you would think they would look like. You
Yeah.
have these 25, whatever. They look older than what they are. And they look nothing like their decoy pictures. So it makes it even funnier when people they fall for it. Because they look nothing like their decoy picture or anything at all.
That's so true. That's so like yeah, there was that Jeff Sokol catch, and then he was telling the decoy like, "Oh, I expected you to have darker hair," and then the decoy's like, "Yeah, it just lightens up in the summer." And then I was like, "Dang, like those improv skills, good for her. Like, good for her." That's and he still like went with it. You know what I mean? Like, wow, how desperate do you gotta be? How down do you gotta be to like fall for that?
Yeah, I mean, there's even some they have a gut feeling that something's not right. They drive off and then they come back and they still fall for it. It's stupid, but
It
but
really is. Yeah.
as long as they get caught, it's all that matters.
Amen. That
So
amen. Absolutely.
so I know you said you stumbled into that. Have you? What is your goal in the future as far as decoying? Excuse me. Are you gonna plan on doing that, or are you gonna? Have you thought about doing catching yourself, or?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I feel like I'm definitely more of a decoy than like a catcher, I would say, because I'm like, I'm very like small, and I fit like they would if I were to confront a creep, they would probably think I'm a 13-year-old. Like even though I like tell them many times like I'm I'm 22, they'd probably like not even believe it because of how like
Mhm.
how I look. So but yeah, I think I would like if one of my friends were like down to like do it, I would totally work with them here. But yeah, for sure, I think I just want to be on like the decoying side of things, and I can I have like a day job too. So I think I would probably you know, do this. I try to like keep this on the side too, because it's just like something that I enjoy doing. Like I enjoy helping, people do this kind of thing because like it's pretty important, to just show and expose how many of these people are willing to do this like really evil thing. But yeah, I just kind of see myself in the position that I'm in for like a while. Yeah.
Okay, well that's good. I've heard lots of good things, and if you're doing it for CC Unit, you must be doing a good thing. What made you get into CC Unit? Did you just stumble into him, or did he reach out to you, or what was the case?
Yeah. Yeah. So the way that I like generally bumped into CC unit was I was on my like binge as usual. And this was like right when like COVID happened. So it was like
Hmm.
March 2020. And then I was just like binge watching all these videos and like going on my recommendations list. And then I like it was the creep who like got angry, the creep that looked like Mr. Clean. And then I was like, oh dang,
Okay.
like yeah, and then I was like, wow, this guy is like there's another one out there. And then at that time, like I think Justin Payne, Anxiety War, and all the people that I was watching, like they weren't that active. Like I don't know, maybe they were like posting monthly, or I went on their channel and like none of their videos were like that recent. But then like with CC Unit, I went on his channel and he like just posted something like a few days prior to that, to a few days ago, and then I was like, oh, this guy's like really active, and so I like went on his like Instagram, and then it was private, so he had to like for approve the follow, and then I saw that he would like go live during his catches, and I'm like, oh dang, like he's like active. So then I guess like
Mhm.
that's kind of what got me into being a supporter at first. So yeah, I was like, I started off as a supporter, and then like I kind of during the whole pandemic, we were kind of like inside, quarantine and whatnot. And then I had like I wanted to, create, because I was kind of going through like a rough time like mentally. So I kind of
Mhm.
wanted to do something or create something that would like kind of, keep my mind off of like the depression or whatever. And I knew like what I love doing is like making people laugh, and like also, creating like, yeah, generally I like making people laugh. So I was like, okay, how do I incorporate that into something? And then I thought of like, oh, what if I create a meme page? So I create, and then I was kind of wondering like, oh, what should I create a meme page for? And then originally I was gonna create like a Marvel Cinematic Universe meme page, or something of that. But then I was like,
Mhm.
oh, like this CC Unit channel doesn't have like an active meme page, because there was one that existed, but like they only posted three things, and I was like, oh, I can try it out. So I made CC Unit memes, and then that's kind of how like I got I got kind of skyrocketed in a way. Like he CC Unit, he took a screenshot of the CC Unit memes profile and then posted it on a story, and then like I got like a wave of followers, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't expect him to see it,
Cool.
honestly. Yeah, so I didn't expect him to see it, which was really like funny. So that meant a lot to me. That like really meant a lot to me at that time. And then yeah, and then I guess how yeah, it's kind of like a long story. I'm sorry, but the way that and yeah, there's like a lot of different like phases. But then when there was one point last year during the fall, like Ghost was looking for somebody to like make a website for him. And so I like
Mhm.
reached out and I was like, "Oh yeah, I can make a website." And then that's kind of how we like got talking back and forth a little bit. And then yeah, and then ever since then we've been kind of like, you know, talking a little, just like a little bit, like not like frequently, but it was just kind of like on the radar type of thing. And then when I did the catch for Alex in May, I think, what, May or June, that was when I was like, that was when I was like a decoy at that point. And so I think in like August, Ghost and Alex did like a collab, and then Ghost reached out to me and was like, "Oh hey, Hime, I hear you decoy." And then I was like, "Oh snap, is it happening?" And then that's kind of when like that's when I became like an official like decoy for CC Unit. Yeah.
The rest is history. So you're the one that runs
Yes.
that page on Instagram. I've seen a couple memes like when CC Unit's not mad and when he gets mad he turns into the Hulk. You're the one that does that.
Oh yeah. Yes. Or like the cc.unit underscore memes. Yes.
Okay, so you guys go ahead and follow her on Instagram. I'll post that later on, so you guys can follow her on Instagram for
Oh yes.
that. Um, I was gonna ask you something. I lost my train of thought. I know you
I'm
said
sorry.
talked about like depression and stuff like that. Describe your childhood prior to doing this. 'Cause I know
Ooh.
you
Oh,
told me
that's
some things.
interesting.
Yeah, I know that you
Mhm.
told me some things, but go ahead and talk about as little or as much as you want.
Okay. Yes. Oh, by the way, thank you, Kodiak, for your kind, and everybody commenting. I see y'all's comments. Thank you. Um, but yeah, I would say my childhood was pretty it had its ups and downs for sure. Like I didn't, my dad wasn't present for most of my childhood because like my parents divorced at like a really young age. So I grew up mostly in like with my mom and then with my grandparents too. So and my like older brother too. And I lived like in a very, I'm like half Filipino, half white. So I grew up with more of like my Filipino side, but I feel like I look more white, which is like, so I don't know how I like fit in. Like I have like I know a lot about my culture, but like people are shocked when I'm like when I'm white. So, but anyway, yeah. So I kind of grew up in that kind of environment. I grew up in like a really Filipino like household, really Filipino neighborhood. Really, I was surrounded by a lot of like Filipino culture. But
Hmm.
then growing up, I didn't have like a father figure in my life, I guess. So that was kind of I didn't looking back now, I didn't realize how like big of a part that would play in a lot of like my life decision making and all of that. But it definitely did something like psychologically. Like I can looking back at my life in like elementary and stuff, I can kind of see where I was like looking for like kind of like approval in a way in a way.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would but I would be like too shy. I was like really shy. I was really quiet and I still kind of am. But yeah, I'm more of like the shy type growing up. But there was like one moment in like 6th grade that kind of like, left a really weird like little scar in my brain because it was basically like a very like harsh rejection moment. So it was
Hmm.
that one really affected me because I didn't know like how or like what being treated right by a guy was like in a way. So the way that this person, treated me was like I didn't I just thought that was like, oh, if he sees me that way, then I guess everybody else sees me that way, which is like
Hmm.
untrue, which is like now looking back, I wish I could have like laughed at it, but it's kind of it is what it is at this point. But yeah, so going and then kind of like going into as we know, I mentioned and when I went into 7th grade, I went to like a private school. It was a Christian private school, and I'm like I'm yeah, it was a Christian private school, and then there was like I was really, as I was saying, I was like a very quiet, shy type who didn't really, you know, um I wasn't able to kind of like talk to people that easily, but everybody was
Hmm.
super like extroverted and it was a really small school, so everybody knew each other. And I kind of felt left out because I wasn't able to like mingle the way that they were able to. And then I was also really into like Harry Potter at that time. This is really random, but I was into Harry Potter at that time. And then, it was like a really Christian private school. So one family member told me like, "Oh, if you talk about that, then you're gonna get
That's the
expelled."
devil. That's the
Yeah,
devil, right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah, they were like, "If you talk about that, you're gonna get expelled." So that scared me. And then I was like, "Okay, now I can't really talk to anybody even further." You know what I mean? Which is like, you know, it was untrue at that time. But anyway,
Mhm.
so yeah, I
That's
remember like,
crazy. I
yeah,
didn't mean to interrupt you.
yeah,
That's crazy because I remember back and then, like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. If you talked about that, they consider that witchcraft. A lot of the
yeah,
religious cultures they consider that witchcraft, which I think it's crazy. But if you were into that or talked about that, or watched the movies, it was looked down on back then. I don't know if people of this generation knows what um, that's all about, but it was pretty crazy. I can understand.
yeah, yeah. So it was, like but it's kind of like the way I see it, it's just like take what you want from it and then take what you don't have to see it as like demonic. Like there are things that are just like for fun, I guess, that you can take from it. Like you don't as long as you don't like actually like partake in it, then by all means is kind of my stance on that. But anywho, yeah, so
So
yeah,
I
yep.
didn't mean. What about like Halloween? Did they look down upon that too as well? Like you couldn't go out trick or treating or anything like that?
Oh, for Halloween, I could like as they were fine with like trick or treating and stuff. I think as long, yeah, I don't know. It was kind of like very lenient, I guess. The the rules and restrictions were not that. I my it wasn't my mom that was strict. It was more like a certain like family member that was strict. But I have grace now. Like I understand why she thought or why they thought that way. Oops. Yeah, I understand like why they thought that way for sure now. But yeah. So,
So you talking about going back in the seventh grade? I didn't mean to cut you off into the rabbit
oh yeah.
trail, but go ahead.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no worries. But yeah, so when I went into 7th grade, I couldn't really like, talk about what I was a big fan of and I couldn't really like make friends and all of that. So I was very like kept to myself. And then bring in the 7th grade, low key. creepy science teacher who was like always kind of like, okay, well, let me give you some backstory. So because I was like not, because I didn't fit in, I was like really bad with like grades and stuff. Like you couldn't even call it bad study habits because like my study habits were just non-existent. So I wouldn't study, so I was like failing my exams and I wasn't turning in work. So this means that I was like always, they always kept an eye on me, especially because like the class was really small. And there's that rule where it's like never be alone in a room where it's just a student and a teacher. Yeah, so there would always be like a student with me, or whenever a teacher did want to talk to me, it would always be in like a group setting, or like, well, there's still kids in the class. But there was this
Mm.
one science teacher who would just have me alone in his room, just me and him for like, I remember the longest I was alone in the room with him in his room was like an hour. Yeah. But there was like, and even like I'm like I'm just gonna say it right now, like he didn't like, thankfully he didn't like sexually abuse me or anything like that, but he did like, it's just weird, like, because there
Yeah.
were plenty of opportunities where it could have been number one avoided, and plenty of opportunities where number two he could have actually like, if I had said something to my like mom or to like the office or to a teacher, they could have like done something and they could have like confronted him or investigated him. Because
Mhm.
like there was a few instances where you know I would like fail my exams and stuff, and then his class was like second to the last class of the day. So while everyone left, while all the students left to go to our next class, he would like keep me back for like 10 minutes. And like, transition period is only 5 minutes. So he would keep me for like an extra 5 minutes, and then he would just kind of like, talk to me. But like, it was just weird. Like, why are you like keeping me alone when you know I have to be somewhere else? And then also like, there was one time where in the morning I like, I got to school like an hour early, and then the following day, I had forgotten my lunchbox at school, and then it was like, I pretty much left it by like the locker area, and then unfortunately his class is like right down the hall of that area. So he kind of passes by the locker area, and so I was like, I went to school that next morning, and then I went to go see if my lunchbox was still there, and then it wasn't. And lo and behold, guess who comes by? He does. And then he's like, "Oh, Hime, by the way, I saw your lunchbox, so I took it, back to my class, and you should come get it." And then I was like, "Okay, whatever." And
That's
I was like,
crazy.
"Oh, whatever." Yeah, I'm like, why would you even, first of all, like, you're supposed to like turn it into the office or something. Like, no matter, I don't care like how close to a student like the teacher is, which like by the way, like I wasn't even that close with this teacher. Like, you wouldn't keep it for yourself. Like you would take it to the office and like turn it in, or if you have like a lost and found, like you'd bring it there. You don't like keep
Mhm.
it in your room. Yeah, so that kind of freaked me out. And like, he wasn't even doing anything sus. Like, but I was inside internally. I was already like freaked out. So I was like, okay, whatever. Let me go to his room. Let me get it. So then I went to go, get it, and then that's when he said, "Oh, by the way, can you like stay in my class for a little bit and like, you know, catch up on work and stuff?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I was there, and it was, mind you, it was like 7 a.m., and then class started at 8 a.m. So I was in there for like an hour alone with him, alone, like an hour.
All by yourself?
Yeah, all by myself. Like nobody came to the room. Like nobody came to the room to like, and nobody was looking for me. Well, I don't know. I can't say that because I wasn't there with the other students. But like, I was just there alone, and then the bell usually rings at like 8 a.m., right? But then even he
Mhm.
would keep, and then he, at that time, he taught ninth grade and 10th grade, I think. Yeah, ninth grade and 10th grade. So even though his students were like coming into class, like he didn't say, "Okay, Hime, you can be let go now." He didn't even release me at like 7:55, not even 8 a.m. He like, I was in there until like 8:10, 8:15. Like 15 minutes over when I
Crazy.
literally have like another exactly. Like I literally have another class to go to. But like, why isn't he saying anything? So I was really like, you know, my I was like, I didn't trust him that much, to begin with, but I didn't
Mhm.
really know how to like get out of there. So he finally like let me go and whatever. And then I was going, I like ran to my locker and I was like, I was already like panicking because I really hate being late to anything, number one. And then it was like, I
Mm.
don't know how to explain this to my teacher. Like, how am I gonna explain to her why I'm frustrated, Like, being late is one thing, but like I just felt really uncomfortable being alone with him, given like,
Mm.
yeah, I just didn't know how to explain it. So like I went to class and then everyone, all the students were there. They were all like in a circle for whatever reason, and then I kind of like rushed into the room, and then I tried to fit in into the circle, and then, my teacher was like, "Okay, everyone, let's pray." So then we all prayed and stuff, and then, gosh, during the prayer, my eyes were closed, so I was just like kind of replaying what had happened and kind of thinking about it, and then that kind of like made me start crying again. And then I mean, not professor, my teacher was like, "Okay, Hime, like, can I talk to you outside?" And she seemed really caring, like, God bless her. But, I couldn't really explain to her because she was asking me, like, "Oh, why are you so upset?" But I didn't know how to explain it. Number one, I didn't know how to explain it. And then number two, like, I didn't want to say anything that would, like, get him in trouble. Like, I didn't want to say any like false information like, oh, he made me feel uncomfortable, because then boom, like they would just start
Mhm.
like coming up with like, oh, like what did he do to you, you know what I mean? So I didn't know how to like formulate why I was uncomfortable at that time. But yeah, so that was like my first like encounter with like somebody that was pretty similar to like what kind of people we catch. But he never like touched me or like hurted me or anything like that. But it was just like really weird. Like he was breaking a really big rule, which was like never be alone in a class
Yeah.
with a student. Yeah.
He knew what he was doing. I love listening to your story, your description, like the things that he would do. He knew exactly what he was doing, and I think, given the right opportunity, he would have tried to pursue things further. Did you ever try to pursue action against him, or did you feel like you just described that it, you know, they'd come up with some type of excuse or whatnot?
Yeah, back then I didn't think that I had enough. And looking back too, I always, you know, it's kind of sad that even now I say, back then I probably wouldn't have had enough, information or evidence to like do anything about it. But, just being alone and I never told anybody this story, but my auntie like recently found out because like I wrote
Mhm.
this in a journal when I was in middle school. I wrote this in a journal that I had, and then my auntie like, and it was on the first page, and then my auntie like, found the journal, and then she just went to the first page and then she read it, and then she like approached me one day and was like, "Oh, by the way, Kimi, like I read your journal, and like the first story that you told, like that's pretty like, pedophilic, you know what I mean?" And I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, really?" And then like she was like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "Well, dang, like kind of ironic because guess what I do as, But yeah, so that was kind of the moment where it was like, "Oh, dang, like that was pretty real." And like but going back to your question, like I've never like, pursued like any legal action because yeah, I don't know where he is now. I look at like the school roster and I can't find him anymore. But
Mhm.
I man, if only I had known it, like, sooner, I probably would have done something. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I completely understand why, like, or I kinda it gave me a perspective as to, like, why victims don't, like, immediately come out.
Yeah, well, you're a kid at the time. Nobody's blaming you. You're a kid, so you have that mindset. That was his fault. He's the one that took advantage of the situation by keeping you there for an hour and taking your lunchbox just to give an opportunity to talk to you. He knew what he
Mhm.
was doing. I say he was grooming you. Um,
Mm.
that's pretty,
Yeah.
pretty safe to say. So he knew what he was doing.
Mhm. That you're very right
Mm.
about that. I completely left out, like or completely had not considered, like, the grooming aspect until now, like, because he could have if I did tell somebody, he could have said, like, "Oh, because, he could have probably used the excuse like, "Oh, she's behind on a lot of work, so I just wanted to help. I just wanted to help her," but
Mhm.
there are like you could put me in like a study group. You could like, you know, contact like my mom to like, let her know like, hey, by the way, like your daughter is not doing her work. Like, make sure like facilitate and make sure she's doing her work. That's what I think my other teachers like did something similar to that, but not him. He had like a
Yeah.
very different approach, which is like the creepy approach.
Well, I mean, if he did that to you, there's God knows what he did to other people. Like I said, nobody's blaming you because you're a kid. You got that mindset. You're supposed to believe everything the adult says and do everything the adult does. So nobody's blaming you. That's just it's weird. It's his. He's the one that should be blamed and punished for that.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
That
had that like affected your mindset of men going forward? Or did you have issues with relationships or whatnot?
Yeah, so because of that, like I literally like how I said I used to like being early, or I do like being early still, but regarding like going to school and stuff, like I literally go at like the last minute. Like I remember when because there's kind of like a story in between, but I thank God, praise the Lord, I had to be like basically I basically got like I like wording it this way. I basically got kicked out of the private school. So I had to go to a public school and and then kind of complete my middle school from there. But so when I transferred over to the middle school or the private school, when I transferred to the public school, I would like I would literally like not get out of the car until like 7:57, and then the bell
Hmm.
rings at 8 a.m. because like I don't want to be pulled to the side like that, you know,
Hmm.
ever again. Like I don't want to be like pulled to the side and then be alone with somebody like that.
My life just brought up a pretty good point. I'm gonna highlight that. It was hard to gather evidence back then too, as well, because you didn't have the luxury that you do now, where you can pull up smartphones and take photos and stuff like that. And um, it just it was hard to gather evidence back then. That's another good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very
So you
true.
said there was a middle story because I know there was a couple instances that you mentioned when you were talking the other day.
Yeah, so but the story in between is kind of like, to sum it up, I just had to get like scoliosis surgery, which is why I couldn't go back to school because I was in the hospital for like, a week I think, and then I had to stay home and like recover from the surgery. So then I wasn't able to go back to school for a couple months, and then, by the grace of God, my like incision of my scoliosis surgery got infected. So then I had to go back to the hospital and basically be like, they had to keep me in the hospital for another couple weeks to like clean it out and take care of it and watch over it. And because of
Mhm.
that, I couldn't go back to school. So originally I was, you know, the healing process for me from my surgery was like around Thanksgiving, Christmas time of 2011. So they, they were able, they, I wasn't able to go back to school because I had to, even when winter break ended, I had to go back and like, um, get a little bit more surgery. So then the private school contacted us and was like, oh, you're missing too much, school. So
Mhm.
you're either going to have to restart seventh grade or like, you know, basically get kicked out of the school. And I was like, all right, peace. Like, well, thank God. You know what I mean? Like,
That's a no-brainer.
unfortunately, yeah, exactly. Like, unfortunately, like, I didn't really like fit in with everybody, and like, that whole thing with the teacher was happening. So I was like, and there were like, don't get me wrong, like I had a lot of great memories at that school. Like it was really fun. It was really cool, but at the same time, it's like, like I'm gonna just not think about going back. Especially if I have to repeat a grade, like no thank you.
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to do that. My seventh grade, matter of fact, I had to do that. That was not fun. Yeah, it's not fun.
Right.
I'm speaking from experience. But I
Mm.
mean, you went to another school, so nobody knew who you were. They didn't know, and like that you literally had to repeat a grade. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Actually, sorry, we're gonna say something.
no, go ahead. You're good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, actually the public school that I went to, it was like, because for elementary school, I went to a public school, and then when I went back to the public school, I was like kind of reunited with my old friends. But there was a lot of new people, but like there was like still people, a couple people like that I knew, and like they're still my friends to this day. So and they know that I do this, so that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't take school serious back then, so that's one reason. I was smart, I just didn't care. I was a class clown and goofed off a lot. Didn't take it serious, so that's what I was held back. Um, you said, how was the difference between that new school that you went to and the old one? Were friends more accepting, or did you still have issues putting in and whatnot?
Since there was like a bigger pool of students, there were introverts and extroverts, and like people that were, involved in a lot versus some that weren't involved in a lot. I didn't feel a lot of pressure to have to be somebody. Like I didn't I didn't feel the pressure to like fit in because there's a lot of different groups to like fit in with, I guess, per se. But
Mhm.
I definitely like when I found, my old friends, that was when I felt a lot better because like, I'm gonna give like I'm gonna shout out one friend. Shout out Mary. Shout out Mary. Mary I've known since like fifth grade. And John. Shout out John too. Mary and John I've known since like fifth grade, and they're really sweet, and I love them very dearly. And when I went back to the middle school for public school, they were there, so I felt really good. I was like, oh my gosh, like my friends. So yeah, I didn't feel any
All those things.
pressure to fit in. Yeah. Mhm.
You were like the scene of a Step Brothers, where they talk like, "Did we just become best friends?" Yeah, one of my favorite
Oh
movies.
yeah. Yes, my brother really loves that movie. But yes, it's pretty good.
So, you know, you had a couple other run-ins with people that were older than you that tried to prey on you. Did you want to describe those events or go into
Oh
as much
yeah.
detail as you wanted to?
Oh yes, let's put him on blast. So
Yes.
there was yes, there was another for this one I was in college technically, so but yet the age difference is kind of whack. And the fact that I can like pass as like literally like I pass as an underage kid every day. Like sorry, this is just a side note. Like I go to like Sam's Club and they literally are asking me like, "Where's your parents?" You can't get a sample unless you're with your parents, and I'm like, "All right, decoying is my thing." So that's how I pass as like a child. So when I was in college. It was like my second year, I think, and I was taking this screenwriting class, and then I was 18 at that time. I was like 18, becoming like 19, but my birthday was like a ways away. And then there was this guy in my class. He had to be like 55. He had to be like mid 50s. Me, I'm literally like 18, right? And then 18 looking like a 14-year-old. And there's this like 55-year-old guy in my class who was just trying to always like get near me and trying to always like approach me, and he sat next to me, and then we didn't have like the for this class particularly, we didn't have the chairs or the seats that were kind of like just stagnant. These chairs had
Mhm.
like rollers, so you could kind of roll around and do little spins and stuff. So he would always like get close to me in that regard, which is really weird. And then he'd always try to like talk to me, and I would look like I'd be very uncomfortable. Like I wouldn't,
Mhm.
you know, reciprocate anything or like initiate anything. It would always be him, and then he would like always try to there was one time where he did that like really cheesy thing where you like yawn and put your hands up, and then you kind of like stretch it over the shoulders of the person that you're trying to get with. So
Mhm.
he did that. Yeah, he did that to me, and I was like, dang, like I don't I was thinking to myself, like I literally don't even know you like that, you know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
there was like one time because we have unfortunately like the next class we had together was like it was in another room slash another subject. But then for that class, we he asked me like, "Oh, can I walk with you to that next class?" And I'm like, "No." Like I
Mhm.
was just kind of like, "No." So and then I just kind of ignored him and just like stormed out of the room. But then there was like one time where we were in that. the next class that we had, which was like a history class. So we were in that history class, and then we had to get into like groups to like do the assignment. And then unfortunately, I got put into his group, or he got put into my group, I'll say. 'Cause, yeah, so he like, and then it was me, him, it was me, this 55-year-old, and then three other boys who had to be like my age. And then this guy, the 55-year-old, let's give him a name. Let's give him Dukas. Okay, we'll call him Dukas. So
Dukas.
Dukas,
I like
yeah,
that. I
Dukas.
like that.
Yes, it rhymes with a doofus, but yeah, Dukas was like, he would like lean very close to me, and then I'd obviously like be super uncomfortable, and I would be like leaning the opposite direction, and then but and then the three guys did like nothing. Like they were just kind of like looking and then at me being uncomfortable by this guy, Dukas. And
Mhm.
then Dukas was like, he literally told me like, "Oh, I love messing with you." Like what the like why would you say
Yeah.
that? You know what I mean? Like I'm
Right.
literally like an I'm literally a kid. Like I'm not even in my 20s yet. You know what I mean? Like so that was
Yeah.
super weird, and then I couldn't really like tell anyone what was going on. Like I wasn't comfortable enough to like tell my professor or anything. So I went, thankfully, praise the Lord, we had like a school psychologist on campus who was free, so I kind of went to go talk to him a little bit, and then that was kind of where, well, okay, at first I wasn't going to tell anybody, but then one of my classmates kind of came up to me, and then kind of like we were just like talking, and then suddenly that was brought up, and then
Mhm.
she literally was like, "Dude, like you need to go talk to the psychologist." And I kind of like told her like, "No, I don't need to. I don't need to." And she was like, "Dude, like you need to." So then I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, I guess I need to." So then that's when I did. And then that's kind of when he was like, the psychologist was giving me like advice like, "Oh, so like how do you want to approach it? Like do you want to confront him? Do you want to tell the professor like what will be helpful to me?" And then I was like, "Oh, okay, like, there's nothing severe that he's done to like, to be, super reportable." Although, I mean,
Mhm.
like, he did try to put a hand like, not fight-wise, but, like, he did try to, like,
Touch you.
touch me, yeah. So I
Yeah.
was like, I could do that." But then I told my psychologist, like, maybe if he does something a little bit, maybe if he does one more thing that kinda pushes my buttons, then I'll do something. So
Mhm.
then it was like the next the next day, I had said something that I had rejected his offer for something, and then I think that kinda, like, brought him down a little bit, and I think that's when he started to only that is when he started to get a sense that I wasn't, you know, into whatever he was trying to do. So
Mhm.
then yeah, so then the next day of that class period, we both sat in the front. We both sat in the front because like, I need to see the board because 'cause I'm small. But he sat in the front next to me, but then for this class period, he actually sat in the back. And he's very, like, bubbly and extroverted, so everybody kind of noticed that he wasn't in the front, so they all kinda laughed. They were like, "Oh, haha, Dukas, why are you sitting in the back? Ha ha ha." And then Dukas was like, he like he was like, "Oh, because Hime doesn't want me sitting next to her," which I, like, never said. I never said that. Like, he
Mhm.
just made that up, and then, ooh, like, the class went silent. Like, the class just went absolutely silent, and then I was like, "What do I do?" Like, do I, like I was literally about to, like, slam my hand on the desk, like, get up,
Mhm.
turn around, and just point at him and be like, "Stop messing with me," I was about to do that, but
Yeah.
then, I, like, kinda held my tongue a little bit. But I think the silence was good. I think the silence was good because it really, like everybody felt that, you know what I mean?
It was
So
awkward.
yeah. Yeah, it was really awkward. But then after like 7 seconds of awkwardness, he finally went, "Oh, how," he like started laughing and was like, "Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding." But everyone was still like awkward. They were like, "Oh, ha, ha, ha." You know what I mean? So I was like,
Mhm.
"Ooh." And then that's when I went to my psychologist and was like, all right. I was crying so bad and I was like, all right, we need we need to do something. I think I'm ready to confront him. So then,
Mhm,
he was like, okay, how do you want to confront him? And then I was like, back then, after watching like all these channels and kind of getting like confidence to go up to somebody, I would have like I would have confronted him in person. But back then I was like, I kind of was afraid of like my safety and stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll just send him an email and I'll also include my professor too, the professor for that class, so he kind of knows
mhm,
what's up. So then I sent an email to Dukas and my professor, um, which was like it said, oh hey Dukas, I don't like the advances you've been making towards me, and I don't like what you said in class on Monday the 25th, blah blah blah. It made me very uncomfortable. Please stop messing with me. And that's what I sent. And then my psychologist was like, okay, so if he takes it good, first of all, then that's good. We won't have to, pursue anything. But if he takes it badly, then we'll have to like report him to like Title IX, which is like, discrimination based on like
mhm.
gender. And I was like, all right, bet. So, thankfully he replied and was like, oh, I'm sorry. He said, I just thought you were cool. I'll stop messing with you now. I'll sit in the back now. And then I was like, dang, like, all right. I was gonna reply like, I was gonna reply, "Oh, I'm just letting you know how I really feel. But
Yeah.
you can, you can sit in the front still as long as you just don't mess with me." But I didn't reply that. I was just like, "You know what? Just let him have it. Like, don't show mercy." So then, yeah, he stopped after that, thankfully. But it was just like, I can't believe it took him like 4 months to like
It
realize.
was, I mean, he was a 50 something year old guy, and you're not even 18. There's common sense that, I mean, you're 2 or 3 generations below him. That's common sense not to even, like the advances that he was making towards you and stuff like that. It's common sense not to even go any further than that. But I don't know,
Hmm.
like he had to, like I said, not the previous guy. You weren't the only guy that he was trying to approach like that. Or you were the only
Yeah.
lady that he was trying to approach like that, that was young and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, I know for a fact that I wasn't, because there was like another girl in that history class that was like, y- she had mentioned something where it was like, yeah, Duke, like, but she's really like sweet. She's really outgoing, she wasn't like shy like me, but she was like, oh yeah, Duke has approached me and asked me, about this assignment, blah blah blah. And I was like, all right, like, you didn't approach the professor for that. You approached another young girl. You know what I mean? Like, okay,
Mhm.
what is what it is, buddy. But yeah, so that was really strange. But I'm glad he's
So,
not in my life anymore.
how relieved were you whenever you sent that email? Like, how therapeutic was that process?
Oh, it was good. I like, just voicing my like true and honest feelings, not holding back any vocabulary, not being like, I'm glad I didn't, give that grace of being like, well, yeah, I'm glad I wasn't like, oh, you can still sit in the front though, because it was like, well, really though, are you sure about that? But yeah,
Hmm.
so that, because I feel like that would have shown that like I I'm kind of staggering back in what I'm saying a little bit, but I don't want to
Hmm.
do that. Yeah.
You don't want to give him another opportunity to try, because if he's doing that to you while you're that young and making those advances, if he feels like he has another opportunity, he's going to take it. So you want to shut that down as soon as possible.
Mhm. Yes. Yes,
So
that's really true.
how have you taken those experiences? Has there been others, or was that those two the only ones?
Yeah, there was the other guy when I was in high school. I was like 17 or 18, and this guy was like 20. But the age difference, like I would, there are like people who date at that age, but I don't support it at all. But this guy kind of like approached me and he was very like graphic in the way that he was talking to me. And but his was pretty like, no pun intended, but his was pretty minor. Like he said the things that he said, when I was like 17, and then he was like 20 at that time. But because of like the age difference being so low, I didn't like expect anyone to think that it was this kind of thing, so I didn't
Mhm.
really tell anybody. Well, I did tell my friend, and then she was kind of like, "Oh, you should just tell him that you're like not interested." And then I was like, "Okay, I'll tell him I'm not interested." And then I told him, and then he got like really salty. He was like, "Okay, then." He got like salty, and then he blocked me. But I
Mhm.
wish I kind of like kept the chat logs before that, because like I could have done, I could have like turned him in or something, but it is what it is. Yeah. His was
You
a lot.
learn.
Oh yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say like his was a little bit not as bad, just because I feel like the age gap wasn't that bad. But regardless, like I was still in high school and he was like
Mhm.
not in high school.
He knew better. He knew, like I said, once you hit 18 or get out of high school, these people that are in high school have a completely different mindset than when you're on your own or should be on your own, starting to discover yourself, starting maybe go to college or start your career or whatnot. Those are two completely different mindsets. You have no business approaching anybody that's in high school, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Sorry, I'm
what? No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm just like looking at chat now, and I see everybody's comments and stuff, but may I like just take a moment to like acknowledge a little bit of them? Because like
Go ahead.
I see some
Go
people
ahead.
like, oh yes, who's I'm sorry, who is erections and gym shorts? Who's do I know?
He caught me laughing at his name earlier when you were talking. It's Ray. I don't know if you watch White Guy Wednesdays. He's one of the hosts with Nate.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Oh, he's like so that's like like actually him. It's not like another account.
no, it's him. It's him.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Yeah, of course I know who you are, Ray. I've watched White Guy Wednesday. So yeah, that's thank you. Thank you for supporting. And thank you, Constantine, for supporting. Thank you, my life. Thank you. Everyone who's in the chat, thank you, Jesus. I don't know if you're still here, but yes, thank you, Kodiak. Thank you, everybody, and Tracy and Becky, if you're still here. Thank you guys.
Real quick, how do you pronounce your name? Because I've had a couple people pronounce it different ways, and I don't want to mispronounce it. Is it? Go ahead. I don't want to mispronounce it.
I mean, it's actually well, it's the historical like actual pronunciation is Hime. So Hee, then dash Meh, like Hime. Like, oh, that guy over there, Hime. Like that's how I would describe it. But I'm commonly
You
like, yeah, Hime. But I feel like the way that it's pronounced actually works, because like if like a if somebody were to like stumble upon like the like ghost live streams, or like even I feel like they wouldn't know who Jaime is, because they
know?
know me as like Hime. Yeah, so I think it
Okay.
works. I say it works. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't want to. Forgive me. I didn't know that's how you pronounced it. I just called you Jaime this whole time. So my
Yeah.
apologies.
No, it's okay. It's become like the norm for this community, so it's completely understandable.
So how would you take those experiences that you've gone through growing up, the guys that were predators? How did you turn that into decoying? Did you, while you were in the process, do you have flashbacks to those experiences, or describe that for me?
Ooh, yeah, so a lot of like what you said with like this teacher, like he did a lot of grooming. So, and then even with this like with this the 50 Dukas, it's kind of like he was more of like the trying to woo the person that he was going for. And then the guy that was trying to get with me when I was 17 and he was 20 was like very he was like thirsty. Like what I mean? Like he was more on the
Mhm.
thirsty side. So I kind of recognize these different, you know, sign like not signs, but like these different types of, mech things that these guys like try to do. But yeah, I think it mostly the way that I look at it is like, they're all gonna have different approaches, because, everyone has different life experiences. Some are gonna be more cautious than others, and then more some are gonna be more like taking their time and like cautious as in like they're not gonna give any information, and then cautious I mean like so that's what I mean by cautious, and then what I mean by like taking their time is like they're gonna just kind of, try to feel out the situation, and if it's like, try to befriend, the minor and actually like see if, they're gonna fall for if they're vulnerable basically. Because that's kind of
Mhm.
how they kind of like go for like very vulnerable kids is what I've noticed. Like I was super vulnerable when that happened. Like I was super vulnerable during those times, and especially like they could have easily taken advantage of like the fact that I didn't grow up, with a dad, and I was in like a there was so in a way like the rejection thing happening to me in like sixth grade, it made me really like scared of like approaching guys. So I'm glad in a way that it's really painful and I'm still trying to like just 10 years now later, I'm still trying to get over it. But in a way, it like kept me very cautious and like it kept me
Mhm.
very wary of how guys like treat vulnerable people.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I've applied it in my own way.
That's crazy
Yeah.
because, like you said, the people that no, they look out for the people like that, the people that are lonely, the people that they consider outcast and are antisocial. They look on those people and try to prey and try to get what they can get out of them. They're smart. They're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They know like it's not a coincidence like they're, what they do and it's it's really really tough and it's really horrible to see it happen so frequently. Like they're especially with like, you know, graphic, material like being on the rise especially with like the internet. That's it's just I feel like it's just exacerbating all of it.
Mhm. Like my life said, it's easier now because you're able to take pictures, you're able to post stuff on social media, whatnot. It's so easy to get access versus back then it was harder. I mean, you still had the internet. It wasn't as it was prevalent, but it's not as prevalent as and accessible as it is now, which I think it's even
Mhm.
more dangerous for predators because they have access to that.
Mhm. Yes. I completely agree. I completely agree.
So what would you say when your process is decoying? Did you have flashbacks to your experiences whenever you were a kid with those guys? Do you ever have those times happen?
I wouldn't really say like flashbacks, but I kind of do recognize like patterns in a way that
Hmm.
they try to entice the minor and like the way that they're super cautious in like sharing information and all of that.
So, what advice would you give to children? Because you've been doing this for a couple years. What advice, if you were to talk to a child right now, face to face, what advice would you give to that child?
Ooh, that's a really good. I would say if anybody just whoever messaged you that you don't know, just block them. Like, cause ooh, this is you really brought up another this is one I didn't mention, but when I was 10 years old, this was 2009, I had, like my auntie, like, made a Facebook for me just so that I could, like, connect with, like, her friends and stuff, and so I was literally 10 years old and I had a Facebook. Looking back,
Mhm.
like, that's pretty bad, but and then at around, like, the age of 10 or 12, I did have somebody that I didn't know message me, and I didn't know their name was super unfamiliar to me, and their profile picture was, like, of a kid, and then this person you really brought this up, thank you. So, you really reminded me
No.
of this, and then this guy was like I didn't know who they were, and then they were asking me like, "Do you wanna be my do you wanna be my girlfriend?" And then I was like I remember exactly what I said. I was like, "I don't know who you are. I've never seen your face." And then, because their profile picture was, like, blurry, and then I remember the line that they used on me. They were like, "Well, you've never seen God before, yet you still love him." And I was like, back then I was like 12, right? So I was like, "Okay, I
Yeah.
guess you're right." And then he was like, "Yeah, exactly." So he was like, "Okay, will you be my girlfriend?" And I was like, I just typed, "Yeah, sure." And then he was like, "Okay, yay, I'm gonna go to bed now." can you say good night? And I was like, okay, good night. And then he was like, no, you gotta, I just put I like misspelled it or whatever. And he was like, no, you gotta say it for real. And then you gotta say, I love you. And then I was like, fine, good night, I love you. And then he was like, okay, I love you too. And then he went to bed and then I blocked him. And then I was like, I don't know who that is. So I blocked him. So, that stuff does, but I was very, very young too. So, and I was like 10 or 12 and that happened to me. And thank God, I blocked him and at that time was the 6th grade rejection thing happened. So I didn't, know how to like I was scared of like approaching, guys, at that time. So
Hmm.
I think if he if I wasn't in such like a vulnerable state, I would have like went along with it. But I think like the fact that I didn't know who he was really didn't sit right with me either. And so that's kind of why I just blocked him. So if I were to give advice to like kids right now, I would say keep everything private, you know, block people that you don't know and first of all, don't even like reply to anybody that you don't know. And then I would also say um really make sure like if you're on a Discord or something, make sure your servers are like super secure. And it's like and I would say make sure they're super secure, make sure your Instagram is secure, and do not put your real information out there. Like don't say anything about where you're from, don't say anything about your family, and don't say anything don't like use like use an alias. Aliases are super fun. They're way cooler than your real name. Well, in my opinion.
Hmm.
But yeah, but I would say like oh, that's kind of mean actually. Everybody has really cool names and cool aliases, but anyway. Yeah, I would say don't put your real information out there and just like don't put everything that you're feeling either because a lot of these creeps look for very vulnerable kids. So don't say
Hmm.
like, "Oh, my mom, she fought with me again." Don't just and you're gonna regret a lot of things you put on the internet too. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
That's a pretty good point because people like teenagers are teenagers. They're very emotional. So if they're
Mhm.
upset about something, of course they're gonna post it on social media. Like they got an argument with their parents, they hate them, or something happened to them that they didn't like. It's the end of the world, and they're gonna post it on
Mhm.
on Instagram or Facebook or whatnot. And people, like you said, they're preying on that. So that's a pretty good
Yeah.
point that you brought up.
Mhm. Yeah, and even like I recently just watched I actually recent are you familiar with that documentary on Netflix? It's called like Don't F with Cats or something like that.
I haven't
I don't
heard
know
of
if you
it.
know. Oh, okay. It's really cool. It's like, I don't want to spoil anything, but they do a lot of like deducting and deduction of like this very like cryptic anonymous video. They did like a lot of deduction on it and they got a lot of information from like a very, you know, blank video basically. And then I was like, dang, like you never know these people could be doing this. So like be wary
Mhm.
about like even like images you post, like where you're at, don't, for your like location and stuff. And even now I'm trying to watch that because it's like you never know who's keeping an eye on you. You never know who's trying to
Mhm.
hack you either. Like and even like security questions, they can give like if you post, security questions are like, what's your mother's maiden name or like who was your first pet? Like what if a hacker is like, stalking your Instagram or something or your Facebook and you post like throwback to when I was 7 and I had this like pet, my first ever pet parrot named Bucky or whatever, like, and then, they go like who you're related to and like family members, and then they find like your mom or something, and then they see her maiden name, right? Or her like
Mhm.
siblings or something, or her brother, and then you know how the men usually carry the name in the marriage, right? So then if he's got his surname too, like boom, they could use that, to hack you and stuff. So even just beyond like creep catching and people like catching or people preying on kids, like I'd be very wary about like what you post too, because like you never know who's watching.
That's you brought up some very solid and great points. I think every parent would agree 100% with what you're saying, and on behalf of them, I'm sure they thank you for what you're doing. We talk a lot about the guys that bite and um, they fall for. not fall. That's a bad analogy. They go for whatever you whenever they're talking to you. What about the guys that pass? Do you what is that ratio to you? The people that pass and it's like, no, you're too young. You should be on here. What is that ratio?
Ooh, that ratio is, I wouldn't say it's about, well, because of like the places that I decoy, I think that also makes a difference. I would say like majority of them pass. I would say like 30% usually take it, and then 70% usually don't. And it really also depends on like low key like how down bad they are. Like if they're really that desperate, then they will like come out. And I know that or I feel like a lot of it has to do with like, you know, sexual abuse material, pornography consumption. And if they've watched a lot, like you can kind of tell who's like watched a lot because they're like desensitized to it. Like
Mhm.
they wouldn't if their minds are basically super desensitized if they've watched a lot of it.
That's pretty good. I'm sure you've got a lot of people that say, "Oh, you're too young," and then 5 minutes later, hit you right back up. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, nothing's changed
Yeah.
within the 5 minutes. You didn't get older or anything like that.
Mhm.
So, the decoying. Has there ever been a point you're like, okay, I got to step away. This is getting a little too close to home, or have you always been able to pursue it from start to finish?
Yeah, I've been able to kind of like, cause I feel like I've seen pretty bad things, or like a
Mhm.
lot of these creeps are like pretty bad. So I feel like at this point it's kind of all just like, you know, I what how man, how do I describe this? It's kind of like Um, yeah, it's all just there are times where like of course like I need to take a break and kind of like, refresh or get my mind off of it a little bit. So I usually try to do that. But for the most part, it's I just keep my mind on like the fact that, they're I'd rather they talk to me than an actual minor is like my
Mhm.
whole perspective on it. And especially if I know that there's like a catcher lined up to get them, it's even better. So, yeah.
So do you talk to them before you find out there's a catcher, or do you find out somebody that's in your area or whatever area and then pursue somebody from that city or whatnot? How does that process work?
Yeah, so majority of the catches that well, when I first started, that was when like I was just kind of like free for all, whoever messages the account. I try to find out where they're from and then to see if there's a catcher there. Then I'll contact the catcher and then they'll hopefully go and get them. But if a catcher like were to reject the offer, then I would just like report them to like cyber tip line, which is like what I've done. So and then yeah, from that point I just try to like get as much information and like get as much information on the creep as I can, and then kind of like whatever incriminating things that they've said I send over to cyber tip line. So but now that was kind of like before I was actually like, because I was kind of shy to like ask. I was honestly shy to ask groups if I could be their decoy because I don't know.
Mm.
I'm just shy. So I didn't really know how to like bring it out. So yeah, I feel kind of I guess it happened eventually. But yeah, that's so back then it was like, oh, why am I doing this if nobody's gonna expose them, But now I have a lot of like confidence and security knowing that they will be.
So how have you changed since when you first started decoying? What are some improvements? What are some things that you've gone through? Some struggles that you learned what not to do, what to do, what not?
Yeah, I feel like the style of like texting has been a lot different. And also because I used to be like super I used to include like a lot of emojis and stuff, try to pass as like an actual because I first started I first when I first decoyed, I decoyed as an 11-year-old. So I tried to like really play the part of an 11-year-old. Like I tried, I was like texting the way that I would when I was 11. So I was really like trying to get into that character. But now that
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and now that I decoy as like a little bit older age, you know, at first I was trying to be more like wordy in my texts and stuff, but now I'm just like, now the style is kind of like I just pretend I'm like shy. So then that kind of passes as to why my texts are so like dry, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But and then also like for the do's and don'ts, I would say, well, when I first I knew kind of from the beginning that they always have to initiate everything. Like I can't ask for them to initiate like I can't ask them, "Oh, can you send me this pic? Can you send me that pic?" Or
Mm-hmm.
like graphic material basically. Like they have to initiate like meeting up and they have to initiate everything. So that's pretty much stayed the same. And then also like if they ask like or if they say like, "Oh, do you want to see, you know, this redacted graphic image?" Then I usually say like, "Oh, dang, actually I don't want to give that away." But I basically don't initiate anything. Yeah.
And don't give away too many secrets because who knows who's watching. I don't want to give away any of your trade secrets, so you're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you talked about your faith. That's pretty prominent in your life. What got you to the point in your faith
Ooh, that's a
to
good
make a
question.
decision to accept Christ and whatnot?
Yeah, so I was like majority of my life I was like kind of I grew up Christian like but I wasn't growing up like super like radical Christian. I feel like my I went to church and whatnot, but I never felt like forced to go to church. It was usually just kind of like I went to like a Christian school in like kindergarten and like preschool, but I never felt like forced into it. I was always kind of left to like make my own decision and to have my own relationship with Christ. And when my parents divorced and then when we moved to Hawaii, it was kind of like, oh, okay, I still go to church and I still pursue like the faith. But my grandma, it was like she's Catholic, so I kind of grew up with that as well. But like I never really like got into Catholicism. I did go to like mass a few times and like my I respect the religion a lot. Like I love like the rituals are quite like meditative and they're very like they make me feel very peaceful. So that's really
Mhm.
cool. But yeah, but like I don't like there's um a lot of like some like not to like I'm with like there are things about it that I would prefer to kind of like I'd rather have my own
Mhm.
relationship with Christ in that regard in terms of like doing communion and stuff. But yeah, for the most part I grew up Christian and then I didn't actually like start pursuing Christ until I was like on my own for that matter until I was like 13 I would say because that's when I really like started thinking about a lot of life decisions and like where what I'm gonna do and stuff and like yeah because it was during like it was after like the big rejection thing in sixth grade that really you know placed the big weight on my brain essentially because it was the cause of a lot of like negative thinking that I even still have today
Mhm.
unfortunately but with God I'm like healing through it um and there was like going to the private school like the Christian private school where I encountered that teacher like it didn't really view my relationship or it didn't really change my view of God like because I kind of understood that it's not God that's hurting me like it's just the people this guy that the
Mhm.
science teacher that was hurting me and like these kids that were not very feel welcoming were the ones that were hurting me instead of God so I feel like it kind of made me draw closer to him even more because it was like there's really nowhere else to go but God. And so
Mhm.
there was like one night where I was like praying and stuff and it was before like a big vacation trip that I was going to go on but I was like really afraid of like flying on a plane. So that kind of like I was like, oh shoot, am I gonna die like when I fly? But
Mhm.
so I was like really scared of death at that time. And then I was just having this really honest prayer with the Lord. And then I was like not only telling him like, oh Lord, like if it's your will for me to, I was super emo. I was like, if it's your will for me to die on the plane, like your will be done. And then, at the same time I was also getting angry at like, why did you allow, the rejection thing to happen? Why did you allow like my dad to like not be with me in childhood? And
Mhm.
like why are you like allowing me to experience, to be out of school basically, my 3 months or I only had like 3 months of my whole like seventh grade basically. So it was like really hard like study wise and like catching up academically when I wasn't even that good of a studier to begin with. So I was just like really mad and stuff. But then, that night the Lord like really came through and like, basically like revealed like how much he loves me. And that moment, he turned like it this is really weird. Like I mean not weird, but like you hear it a lot and like stuff, but like he really turned like my my sorrow into joy at that time. And then
Mhm.
I was like crying a lot. I was like it was like 10 minutes of crying and like 10 minutes of praying, or 20 minutes of 20 to 25 around there. And then I was like the moment right before I said amen, like it was so like I just there's this like there was this like heavy weight on my shoulders that I didn't know I carried. And when right before I said amen, like he lifted it off of my shoulders. And then I felt like the feeling of like sorrow and fear just immediately turned to joy. And then that's when I knew like, okay, Lord, like you're with me, and I believe like that you are who you say you are, that you are the Son of God, and you love us so much, and you died on that cross for us, and so much so, that we can experience eternity with you. And that's the start of my relationship with Christ. Yeah.
That's a very good testimony. We all, I know, I don't talk about religion a lot, but we all have different beliefs and stuff like that. But I'm glad that you found solitude and accepting Christ and following your path. That's something to be said about that. And turning your life around and taking the situations that was meant to be bad into good. So um, hats off to you, indeed.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
No
Thank
problem.
you for
Um,
thank you for letting me talk about it too.
no, no problem. Like I said, I wanted to give you a platform. You told your story, and everybody's supporting you. So I wanted to give you that platform. What you do does not go unnoticed. Everybody's very much appreciative for what you do in the community. So I'm glad that you took the time to come on and tell your story to us.
Hmm. Yes, thank you for having me as well. It
No
really means a
problem.
lot. Yeah, and thank you for you're such a blessing as well to the community, like giving a voice for everybody here. So God bless you. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just look at giving people a voice who may not have a voice, people that, I know we talk a lot about predator catching and stuff like that, but my main goal is for people just to talk, like the people that's been sexually abused, people that survived cancer. That's my goal. I want everybody that's had over obstacles to overcome to be able to excuse me, um, have a voice, be
Mm.
able to
Mhm.
talk about their experiences and help inspire other people. So that's
Mm.
was my vision the entire time. So I'm just glad I gave you that platform. While we're wrapping things up, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you about 5 random questions to lighten the mood a little bit.
Yes.
If people want to ask questions, now's the time to ask um, Jaime or Hime. Sorry, messed
It's
up
okay.
there. Ask her some
It's okay.
questions. Get those questions rolling in, ladies and gentlemen. Um, First question: favorite cereal?
Favorite cereal? Ooh, I think Fruit Loops, I would say. It's pretty classic childhood. Fruit Loops are pretty good. Yes.
See,
Very
I was
very
always I was always an Apple Jacks guy or Cinnamon Toast Crunch guy.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is pretty good too.
So, what was your favorite cartoon to watch with that cereal back in the day?
Oh wow. That ooh, I like I was a big like Cartoon Network kid, so I would say like Ed, Edd n Eddy was one of my favorites. I had like this
Eddie.
kind of yeah, I think like Double D from Ed, Edd n Eddy was like one of my first like crushes I've ever had. So as a kid,
Crush on a cartoon. That's awesome.
yeah, I know it's so embarrassing, but it be like that.
Ailey, roll tide. I got two words. Roll tide. Thank you for that comment. Thank you for stopping in, by the way. Um, what is your? I'm trying to think of a question. I lost my train of thought there. What is the funniest thing that's happened to you in your life?
Ooh, funniest thing. Dang, there's a lot. Funny as in like maybe elaborate a little bit.
Like a funny story.
Ooh, funny story. Dang, there's a funny story. I can't think of any at the moment. Man, dang. Um, man, I feel bad. I can't think of anything.
We'll we'll come back to that one. Are you the type of
Okay.
driver that waits till you're on empty to refill the tank, or do you go halfway?
Oh, sorry. Can you repeat that? You kind of broke up a little
Do
bit.
you wait till you're on empty to fill up the tank, or do you wait till it's half, or go to the gas station when it's halfway?
Halfway, for sure.
Halfway?
I
Okay.
don't, yeah, I don't like the feeling of panic when I'm at near empty.
You don't like the rush of knowing you got 2 or 3 miles to go and hopefully make it to
Yeah,
the gas station.
yeah.
I did that once and ran out of gas, and I learned that my mistake. Like never again. I'm not doing that. So I'm good. I'll just wait till I'm about 2/3 and then refuel. Um, what is your favorite movie?
Ooh, favorite movie, easy. Right now, it's Hacksaw Ridge. Yeah, super good movie. Really
It's All
big
Ridge.
tearjerker. Yeah. But
Oh,
growing up, oh, sorry, go on.
no, go ahead.
Oh, but growing up, I loved like the Chronicles of Narnia. That movie's like hits close to home. But yeah, I love um like C.S. Lewis and all of that. But right now, my favorite movie is Hacksaw Ridge. Yeah.
Okay. I think I've seen it. It's excuse me. It's been
Yeah.
a minute, but so what favorite state have you been to besides Hawaii? What
Ooh,
what's your
favorite
favorite state?
state.
Yeah.
Ooh, dang. I loved it's between like California and Seattle. I would say Seattle because of like the weather, but I feel like California has a lot more to offer. Like, yeah, I was more in like the Anaheim area for like, Disney and like Knott's Berry Farm, but I would say Seattle for like hiking and the weather.
Okay. So I've never been to California, but I'd like to go to the mountains and stuff and visit different scenery that you don't normally get to see. Um, I was gonna add a question. What inspires you?
Ooh, I would say like just being able to I would say my relationship with Christ like inspires me the most because it kind of like I get to, I get to shine my light with to people and kind of be like an encouragement, I would hope, to people just when they're like going through bad times and all of that, I would say. Mm.
That's awesome. And one final question, and hopefully we get some questions from the um, chat. If you could decoy for anybody besides CC Unit, who would it be?
Oh dang. Um, wow. I'm pretty grateful with where I'm at. Like I feel like it's little like 20-year-old me would have been like or little 19-year-old me binge watching Chris Hansen videos would have been like super proud of me where I'm at now and just so like just absolutely dumbfounded by the fact that I would be able to get to this point of life. Um, but I would say, um, I mean, Dang, I would say like Anxiety War would be pretty cool, but he's kind of hard to reach, I think. But I'm really
Okay.
happy where I'm at now, though. But
And I was gonna
yeah.
say once you've done CC Unit, he's like at the top of the pinnacle. There's no, he's like on the Mount Rushmore up there with Predator Versions and whatnot. Why go? You've already reached Mount Rushmore, so you're good. I'm good
Yeah.
on my questions. I don't see. I'm trying to see if there's any questions from the stream. Thank you guys for. I know it's almost. It doesn't feel like it's been an hour and a half, by the way, but
Oh wow, yeah.
yeah, it's been a pretty smooth interview, if I say so myself. Thank you for
Oh,
coming
thank
on
you.
once again.
Oh, thank you.
So
Likewise. Likewise.
I don't see any. Is there any questions, Bueller? Anybody? If there's none, what do you have any last words for everybody? And we can wrap things
Um.
up.
Oh yes, I can give like some shout outs. First of all, yes, shout out to you for just allowing me to be on here and to just like share my story. It's very You guys like inspire me. Like I feel like I kind of want to like start my own podcast too. Like I don't but yeah, I think maybe one day, I don't know, when I have time. I'm pretty like I have a lot on my plate at the moment, but um yeah, thank you for being such an inspiration as well and for giving like everybody a voice as well. And shout out shout out Ghost, shout out CC Unit. Like I'm really grateful that, he's allowed me to like help him like decoy and stuff because it's like it's kind of, I started out as a fan, which is really funny. Like I just started out as like a supporter back in like March 2020 and then like skip to a year, like August 2021, and I'm like, helping him decoy and stuff. I feel like, that's really rare, or not rare, but like it's pretty crazy how I wouldn't have imagined myself getting to that point. So I'm really grateful to Ghost, and I'm really like, if it wasn't for his entire movement, I wouldn't have. If there was no CC Unit, then CC Unit memes would like cease to exist. So yeah, everything was really cool how like things worked out. So shout out Ghost. Shout out shout out to like the other decoys out there. Y'all are doing really good work and I appreciate y'all behind the scenes, whether or not you want to be recognized or not. Like y'all are doing really awesome work. Um Shout out to all the other catchers as well, like Alex, shout out Courtney, shout out PP Toronto, shout out Justin Payne, um shout out T Coy, shout out Steph, shout out who else? Let me think. Oh, shout out Anxiety Ward. Probably not gonna see this, but shout out him anyway. Shout out PCI. Shout out all of you guys. Like y'all are doing such a good work. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, so I'm really grateful that y'all and like I'm pretty sure all of us have like day jobs and or doing a lot and taking care of family as well, even our own children. So yeah, thank you guys and God bless every one of you guys. Like I'm always keeping this community in my prayers and praying for like success as times seem to get darker. So yeah.
We appreciate those prayers. We appreciate you. Like I said earlier, your work does not go unnoticed. No Georgia Bulldogs fan. Sorry, even though I do have a Georgia Bulldog kind of look-alike long sleeve shirt on, or I work for Chick-fil-A, one or the other, but no, roll tide. Everybody's showing their love to you once again. Thank you for coming on. You're awesome. You're a blessing. And I want you to have a wonderful rest of your night. And thank you once again.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. All right, guys. Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for Constantine, Haley, even though she's a Georgia Bulldogs fan. Thank you for coming on. Robin, Kodiak. Who else was in here? My Life, FM, Dream, Dream. Ray. That's I can't scroll up that far ahead. But thank you guys. You guys are awesome, and I will see you guys soon. Much love.